Hello there. Now, this is my first ever YouTube live stream, so not quite sure if everything's okay, but there's a first time for everything. So one of the things I wanted to share today was the release of my upcoming brand new book called Awaken Your Course Creation Mojo. I recently released my last book, The Theory and Principles of Creating Effective Training Courses. And one of the first things a lot of people said to me was, Sarah, is there an audio version of this book? Now, while I haven't quite got around to recording the audio version of that book, I thought, well, the new book, Awaken Your Course Creation Mojo, that's coming out within the next week, I'm going to start preparing the audio version for that. So I did a live stream today on Facebook where I actually recorded the audio version of my book on a live stream too, but onto Facebook. So chapter 1 has already been done. Right now I'm going to read aloud to you chapter 2. I am using my microphones here to actually record this for real. It is actually going to be the audiobook version. So for those of you who don't know about this book, it's called Awaken Your Course Creation Mojo, and it's all about helping you beat the procrastination of creating online courses. There's a lot of people out there who have all kinds of knowledge and skills that could be sharing that and helping other people by turning that into an online course. But there's a lot of things that get in the way, and usually it's not actually the course creation process itself that stops that from happening. Actually, what I've found is that it is people's self-esteem, self-belief, mindsets, misconceptions that get in the way. And as I started writing out one of my future books, Entrepreneur to Edupreneur, this was going to be just a chapter. This one book was going to be a chapter in it, but it became absolutely immense because I realized very quickly that this mindset part that you need to get over is often much bigger than the actual course creation process. So I'm going to now just head on over to my book to read out chapter 2, and this one is all about overcoming that self-imposter, self-doubt and imposter syndrome that can happen. So I'm just going to get myself silent first of all, just to make sure that this is all set up and working, and we will have this together very shortly. Okay. Overcome self-doubt and the inner imposter. When I decided that I wanted to break my training away from behind the safe and controlled walls of the corporate classroom in order to share it with the world, I knew that it would involve getting known out there in the big wide world. Secretly, part of my ego was even a little bit tantalized by the idea of attaining a degree of industry fame. But along with the tummy-tickling excitement and fantasies of myself signing my autograph on books for my adoring fans, I also felt a sense of blood-draining dread at the realization that I didn't know everything about my topic. Poop. Double poop. My fantasies of victoriously holding an award above my head in front of a cheering crowd for having educated millions of people suddenly turned into a nightmare of publicly being asked questions that I didn't know the answers to, of being put on the spot in interviews about words I didn't understand, or theories that I couldn't unpack, or industry news that I was not updated enough on to report my view on, or even other experts who would spotlight my weaknesses to keep me down a peg. The internal horror movies played out endlessly in my mind and convinced me that I just wasn't good enough yet. I had to be more of an actual expert first. Right now, I was nobody. Nobody knew who I was. I hadn't victoriously held any awards above my head, and bar the swimming badge that I got when I was 10, and nobody between here and Pluto actually cared either. But then I remembered that 19-year-old girl, me, who started a business years ago because she loved something, because she was good at something, and because people needed that something. I remembered how it felt when a student had told me for the first time, Sarah, you've changed my life. I imagined being able to make that impact to millions of lives, and my fire roared up, my stubbornness kicked in, and the overwhelming sense of imposter syndrome was burned out enough to not completely hold me back. It never went away, but reminding myself of my strengths, my purpose, and what I did have to give instead of all the things that I didn't was enough to power me on a little bit more each day. Now, 4 years later, I've held multiple awards above my head on stages in front of cheering crowds. I've got sore wrists signing endless books to my supportive and loving followers. And as I write the words on this particular page, I currently have a heart full of indescribable joy at having over 9,000 students in over 130 countries all enrolling in my training. All because I kept one thing in mind, and that is, we all have something to give. Now, as well as the obvious, a key point here is that sitting around and waiting until that you are successful is the biggest oxymoron ever. You cannot get a success of any kind until you do something. Doing nothing means you'll never be anything. People don't just wake up one morning with awards and books and followers. You have to start somewhere. And precisely where you are right now is your starting point. Just do what you can with what you have right now, and don't stop until that part of the journey has given you some clues as to what's next. Imposter syndrome kicks in when we spend more time focusing on the things that we don't have instead of all the things that we do. Now, here's a simple fact. It is impossible to know everything about a topic. There is so much information, science, data, opinions, studies, theories, discussions, and more out there that it's a factual impossibility to keep up with and retain all of that information in our human heads. Secondly, it all changes so rapidly that even if we could retain it all, we'd never be able to replace the old with the new as it happens anyway. So we really need to stop putting so much pressure on ourselves to think that we should be. Knowing everything and worrying about what we don't know is not what's important when it comes to educating and leading in our industry. Sharing what we do know is. You have a wealth of valuable content and expertise to share, even if you don't know what it is yet. You do have a message. You do have a course inside of you. In fact, I go as far as saying that you probably have many courses inside of you. So try not to allow that mojo bashing thought creep in and that you can't because you don't know it all. People are not going to pay you for what you don't know. They are going to pay you for what you do know. Students are not going to enroll in your course called Stuff I Haven't Figured Out Yet. They're going to enroll in the courses that are packed full of all of the knowledge that you do have. People are not going to praise you or give you awards for worrying about what you don't know. They're only going to award you for what you do know. So what do you know? Let's start with that. You are brimming with expertise that others need. When our course creation mojo is taking a hit, we can all too easily convince ourselves that we don't have anything of value to give to others. We allow the media to consume us with the notion that we have to be someone famous, qualified, or who's overcome some spectacular and newsworthy odds in order to consider themselves as having anything worthy of listening to. But this, of course, is codswallop. Everyone has an abundance of valuable information packed into every cell of their body that has the power to change someone else's life, if only they just share it. However old you are right now, that is how many years you have been training for your job today. That is how much preparation and training life has given you to make you ready for the next part of your life. You have learned so many things, skills, knowledge, and life lessons within you in abundance. That much is true. You have learned things formally and informally. You've learned through work. You've learned through the highs and lows that life has presented to you. You've expertise that other people don't have yet. It could be cooking, communicating, a professional skill, an academic skill, a passionate hobby that you have or that you love encouraging others to try. Maybe you have a unique talent. All of these, I can guarantee you, there are other people out there in the world that don't have those yet and want to. There are more than 7 billion people on Earth. So I put my last glass of favourite wine down as a bet that at least a few of them would want to know what you know, would want to know how to do what you can do, no matter how small it may seem to you. Now, you may have been through experiences, good and bad, that may have made you tougher, stronger, wiser, more cautious, more thorough, and more pro. I bet that there are people out there in the world who are at the beginning stages of a similar experience, or indeed in the midst of it, and they're lost in the confusion with no idea what to do next, or how to move on, or how to break free. But you do. You have the answer, or at least one of those answers. You've been there. You've been through a similar experience, and if you really sat back and thought about it, you would be able to list a bunch of strategies that you didn't even realize that you used, and then share them with these people to help them get through that thing too. Do not underestimate just how much you can help someone by just letting them know that they are not alone, that you've been there too, that you got through it, and that you would like to share the solutions and strategies that you used to move through that experience to get to where you are today. You are so well equipped. You have so much on offer, and there are so many people out there that can help you get over their fears, to push away your imposter syndrome, and to step up with confidence in the power that you behold to make a difference to others with the gift of learning that your life has provided for you. So ask yourself these questions. What gift do you have that you could share? What experiences have you overcome that could help others get through, good or bad? List at least 50 skills, knowledge, and expertise that you have that you could give to other people, even if it was just one tip on each one. So ultimately, we must understand that imposter syndrome cannot be totally obliterated. In fact, now that I've got myself out there and I've put myself on that pedestal as an expert, I have to admit that the tendency for self-doubt to creep back in can actually increase. It's almost as if that devil on the proverbial shoulder now starts adding a whole other level of mojo bashing whispers into our ears when we've made it. In the darkness of the night, that little voice can creep in and say, "Hey, Sarah, you know, if they find out now, after all of this, you are going to look even worse if you drop the ball. You know, Sarah, now that you actually have a reputation to lose, if they figure out that you're just an everyday girl hustling and grinding like everyone else, you're going to be busted, right? What will they think, Sarah, if now after calling yourself an expert, people see that there is stuff that you don't know? Because unlike before, Sarah, now everyone's watching you." It's fascinating for me that no matter where we get to or how high we go, we still have to find ways of dealing with the self-doubts that come with putting ourselves out to the world from time to time. And that's just the point. This is an exercise not in getting rid of it, but in learning how to push through it when it does pop up in our lives as an edupreneur so that we can keep changing other people's. So that's just one of the chapters from my next book, and I'll be sharing some more here. And check in on Facebook, join my Facebook group Entrepreneur to Edupreneur if you'd like tips on creating information education-based products, face-to-face and online courses. You can follow me at sarahcordiner.com, and of course on YouTube, sarahcordiner.com/YouTube. I hope you found that useful. If you guys have got imposter syndrome or it creeps up in whatever you do sometimes, you may like to check out my book when it comes out, Awaken Your Course Creation Mojo, which you will be able to find on sarahcordiner.com/Amazon. Otherwise, thanks for listening. See you soon. And now I have no idea how to turn this off. How do we close the live stream? This will just keep going for now, I suppose. I'm just going into my channel now to see where we can turn this one off. I'm using, actually, this is a tool I haven't used before. What's it called? XSplit. Have we even got anyone watching on here right now?